half a day and welcome to another episode. I want to thank you for watching wherever that may be on KUAM TV 8, TV 11, maybe on YouTube, Facebook, wherever it is. Thank you again for tuning in. Pretty important show as it always is because I like to have these conversations. And joining me here, no strangers to the show, we have Juanita Blas from Island Girl Power and Jayne Flores from the Bureau of Women's Affairs, kind of a one-woman department over there. And I want to thank you both for joining us. Jayne, I'm always a little intimidated when I have an award-winning broadcast professional on the show with me. So I do want to thank you for your time now that you're with the
in a
Bureau.
Previous life.
In a previous life, but you know, you paved the way for a lot of us. So I just wanted to say thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you.
What we're talking about today is a pretty serious issue that, Juanita, I've talked to you several times on radio and on TV, just about what you're doing over there at Island Girl Power to empower the young girls of our island, to give them that positive outlet and to really empower them just to be the strong women that they are. And there's always something happening over there. We'll cover that later, but these are some big issues. And Jayne, this kind of came about when you and I were emailing about something unrelated to this interview, but you said something in your email that kind of stuck out. It was about getting the message out about focusing on male attitudes with regard to Guam's high rates of sexual assault, domestic violence, and STDs. And that stuck with me because what Juanita does and what so many other groups and organizations do is, you know, empower these girls, maybe help them when they're victims of something. But we need to kind of go back a little further. Instead of trying to put a Band-Aid over something that's already happened, we need to prevent these things from happening. So it's about teaching the men and adjusting the attitude that men have. And instead of saying, well, she shouldn't have or she shouldn't have, it needs to say, well, he should not have.
Absolutely.
So let's get into this. Jayne, we mentioned before we started the show about some legislation, some things you're working on closely with Juanita. Let's go ahead and get into what the Bureau is working on nowadays.
Well, there are a couple things, a couple pieces of legislation, but with regard to the period poverty, when I first took over at the Bureau of Women's Affairs, when Governor Lou Leon Guerrero revived the Bureau of Women's Affairs and put me in charge of it, one of the things that I wanted to focus on was, you know, attitudes about sexual assault and about just menstruation and women in general. And Juanita was the one who pointed out to me, she said, hey, I need, you know, help with this Project Sotera because we're trying to combat period poverty and I'm, you know, having, you know, difficulty with this. And so I said, well, hey, let's get, you know, the community involved. And so I am very grateful to the Guam Council of Women's Clubs and entities like the Bank of Guam and other, you know, other quality distributors, other organizations that came on board when we first, you know, said, okay, we're going to do this Project Sotera. We're going to make period products available in the schools because I had done a survey with GDOE and with public health of GDOE with the teachers and the nurses, and at public health, we did a 300-person survey and public health, at the time, Linda DeNorsi was the director, and I was really appreciative. They took these surveys and they had clients actually you know, when they were in the waiting rooms, they had clients fill out the surveys. And we gave public health 300 surveys, we got 285 of them back, which is phenomenal. And most of the women said, yes, I have an issue. I don't have enough menstrual products. This is what I use. And it was heartbreaking what some of these women used: rags, old socks, paper towels, toothpapers. Their babies used diapers, you know, and it just was heartbreaking. And so we said, okay, we need to do something here. What we can do is when girls are in GDOE, you know, they didn't have a lot of data on girls missing school because of their period, because girls don't tell you when they, you know, why they're missing school. But we figured that if this was an issue with the women, it was also an issue with their daughters. So we started asking for donations, and organizations like NAWIC would adopt a school and once a semester bring period products. And when we would bring these period products into the offices or in the nurses, you know, the office people would practically cry saying, thank you so much, because our girls need this so much. And if we don't have it, because GDOE would give a certain budget to the nurse's office, and you know, they had to buy all of their supplies, which, you know, they have to have bandages or whatever, you know, for in case a student gets injured. And you know, they would buy a couple packages of period products, but that would be gone, you know, in a couple of weeks. So teachers and, you know, staff were the ones who were supplying these women, these girls with the period products, or they had to go home. So for the community to step up, and one of the things was the women's clubs said, you know, okay, we'll do this for a while, but we also think the government should step in and just exactly provide just for this purpose. And so there are several states that have supplied period products: Illinois, New York, California, Rhode Island. There are a bunch of states that are now doing this, just setting aside, providing schools with period products for their students. And so I'm really excited. The Youth Congress with Speaker Kiani Abbott, who is wonderful, they modeled some legislation and used our public health survey as the impetus for this legislation. And they have this bill 9736, which Senator Amanda Shelton introduced, and it allows for the government to provide period products in the schools, you know, specifically sets aside period products for the schools. And so that's just one component of it. And then Juanita and I had, before the pandemic, we started going to the high schools and giving presentations on period poverty to high school health classes. And this was both males and females, because I'm, you know, old, so I'm dating myself here, but I remember when I was in like 6th grade and all the boys had to leave the room, and then they would talk to the girls about menstruation and about, now Juanita, you're younger than I am, so I don't know if this was the case when you were, you know, in school too, but it was just,
I remember that too. Yeah.
It's just such a hush hush thing. Well, you know, we decided, and period poverty is, look, you know, part of it is, and even on Guam, menstruation is always such a hush hush thing. And, you know, oh, you know, she's on her time or whatever. And, you know, we decided that, look, part of the issue about males respecting women is respecting that they menstruate, and that this is something that happens to them every month. They didn't choose it. It's just, you know,
Right.
luck of the draw.
And yeah, I think it's also about ending the shaming.
Right.
And so
Yes.
if we don't have young men in the health classes when we're doing the presentations, then there's this, you know, oh, what were you guys doing in the presentation? And then there's a whole teasing that's going on around the female focused activity. But, you know, we go in and we talk about cloth pads, and we talk about menstrual cups. And so when the young men see these products at home with their mothers and their aunties, they're a little bit more sensitive, and they understand that this is something that we need as females, and to be helpful rather than, you know, shaming us and
Right.
making us feel.
And those boys got to know that when they grow up and they're in a relationship, they're going to have to stop by the store and get some products that they're not going to use, but it's for their wife, their girlfriend, and, you know, not being scared of it, not being taboo.
And it makes them so much more positive as a male figure when you support the women in your family, and you don't make that a problem. And if a woman's having a hard time, if a young lady's having a hard time, and some women have really bad cramps and just are are not able to do anything. And so, it's being sensitive, and that respect that should be happening is part of the awareness and the outreach that we're doing.
So
Absolutely.
we're going to talk about this project that Juanita, you're obviously very passionate about. When before the show, when we were discussing what we wanted to talk about, you said I wanted my focus to be on this project. So it's obviously a big deal. Jayne, you're working on some legislation and then things like that from the Bureau's office, and Juanita, you've always been kind of a frontliner out there. So. What are the ultimate goals for this project?
I think for Project Sateta, we started off with the awareness that young girls needed to know their personal rights. But Sateta is the age of a young girl when, not quite a little girl and not yet a woman, kind of a thing. And so coming of age. And in the older times, they used to be taken in by aunts and grandmothers and moms and taught the ways of womanhood, whether it be cleaning or cooking, but also personal hygiene and taking care of yourself. And Chamorro tradition, taking care of everybody else. But with Project Sateta, we've done the cooking classes and nutrition classes, teaching about healing arts and learning, the traditional healing practices with plants, and teaching girls about coping skills, helping them to cope with stress. And so our overall arching goal, at least with the partnership with the Bureau of Women's Affairs, is to help to make more cloth pads and to promote, eco products like the menstrual cups, and be able to bring women and girls in. Honestly, I'm not opposed to men either, coming in and learning to sew and sewing the products so that we could reach more people in the community with these reusable items. And at least, that awareness is key. And that's the main goal, is to spread the awareness out that, we need to man up and we need to treat our women good. And respect the monthly cycle, because it helps us to get out what we need to say when the time is right.
Yeah, we absolutely need to have that conversation, and I'm glad we're having it now. And there's a lot involved in this. Period poverty is one of the big issues. And Juanita, you're always talking about from the standpoint of just empowering these girls, teaching them these skills, just to how to live a positive, full life. And you're at the spearhead of this movement as well. And the period poverty, you're looking at feminine products that maybe someone who is going through that phase of their life, maybe they've not had that talk with their mom about this. How awkward is that as when you're a little girl and things start to change, things start to feel a little off? How awkward is that conversation?
Well, I think it doesn't have to be awkward. When the young girls come into the program, they're at any age between 7 and 14. And even our big sisters are 15 and older. The young men that volunteer are 15 and older. And we just make it a common thing. As soon as they take the tour, they're coming into the program for the first time. During the tour, we bring up situations and we bring up things that say, we are here to talk about the difficult topics, whether it's depression and suicide, or I show them the cloth pads and I say that this is what we do and this is what we make here. And so if you have any questions, or if you want to learn more about learning how to sew and how to make these are not taboo topics here. We're the place that you can ask the questions. And so as the girls grow through the program, they're more comfortable talking about topics like that. And we bring in guest speakers to reinforce proper education, and not just them hearing it from their friend or hearing it from their, classmate. And so that's so important. And you talk about empowering the girls. Our center here in Dededo has been inspiring the community so that we can better empower the girls. You have to build the role models around the program so that the girls empowerment program is more successful.
Yeah, I'm sure, there's a lot of powerful island women out in the community today who have passed through your doors. So I know we're all appreciative of that. And Jayne, wanted to get back to you. We've mentioned a bunch of times about having this conversation and it being taboo. Why exactly do you think it's still taboo? I mean, this is something since humans started walking the earth, women have had to deal with. So why is it still taboo in some places?
I, you know, I I don't know, but I know that it's not only here on Guam that it's taboo. It is taboo in a lot of different areas. And I think it has to do with, since time, biblical times when women had to go into a red tent when they menstruated. And, it was thought to be an unclean thing. And I think for us, for Juanita and I, trying to get the message out that this is a natural thing. When we would go into the high schools and do these presentations, we would tell the young men, look, know that the girl next to you doing the science project, or the girl next to you, that's on the soccer field, is whatever she's doing with you from a couple days out of the month, she's doing it while she's menstruating, and you need to have respect for that, and respect for the fact that she is still rocking and rolling, even though she's having this thing that happens to her body that sometimes is not fun. And I think one of the most revealing things for us when we do these presentations is that we would show this movie about period end of sentence, about these girls in India that had nothing, and then they got a pad making machine, and how they were empowered after they got this machine and started businesses and things like that. And we would hand out 3x5 note cards, and we would tell the students, you can ask us anything you want, because we're moms, we're grandmas, the nurse is here, that we can medical, we would always have the school nurse with us, so if they had any medical issues. And kids would run up to us with handing us the cards, because they knew that whatever they were asking, nobody would know who it was. I mean, the questions: can tampons ruin your virginity? Can I get pregnant if I have sex during my period? Why do I menstruate? That was probably the most heartbreaking one, because if a girl doesn't know why she menstruates, then she's way more at risk for teen pregnancy, or sexual assault, things like that. And so to just have these questions out in the open, and have the only thing that interferes with your virginity is having sex. Okay, if you fall on riding a bike or something, no, you're still a virgin. And that kind of thing. And Juanita, I think it just is just so important to bring these young men into the conversation, because this is where all of the experts say that the attitude change starts, is with the younger men. You're not going to get the 60-year-old man who, to change his attitude, unfortunately, as easily as you are going to get these younger men to just have, grow up with respect, and talking about consent with regard to sexual activity, and just
Right.
talking about, sexual activity, and not having it be taboo, so that, young girls, especially if they're approached by an elder male relative, leave me alone. I have my period. I can get pregnant. You need to not do this to me, that kind of thing. And to give them a voice, and to have the young men, know that you don't just get to take someone, you have to ask, and you have to have consent.
Right.
And just
And
like with so many other things, it all starts at home. It all starts with having that conversation. And sometimes, it's awkward asking your parents about something. It's awkward. So Jayne, like you said, when kids are presented with these opportunities to ask the questions, go ahead, Ask away, ask anything. It doesn't matter how silly it may seem to you or how taboo it may seem. You need to ask those questions. You need to have the conversation. Boys as well. So Juanita, we're running short on time here, so we'll wrap things up. But I know you're always busy, as I said, out there with things. So what do you have coming up that you want the people to know about or take part in?
Yes, so we have our soft opening for the thrift store, and we haven't been open since December. We had our soft opening on Saturday, and we plan to keep the store open on Saturdays for now, just to get our bearing. And we have some volunteers coming in through public health and other agencies to help us out, but just on Saturdays from 9 to 3. And that way, you know, we'll continue our outdoor sales, our clearance sales. And, you know, we just want to put out a thank you to the people of the community for supporting our pancake fundraiser we had on Saturday. We had a wonderful turnout, and so many beautiful people I haven't seen since this whole COVID. So just thank you to the women's groups that donated ingredients, and our wonderful new board for supporting us. And it couldn't have happened without Simon Sanchez Pro Sharks. That's the Pro Start lodging management program, and their marketing team for really getting it done. They were rock stars. And I'm going to mention two people's names because I think they helped me with the most difficult parts around the center, and that's Mr. Troy Uggan and MJ. And they really, you know, came through with pickups and loads of stuff being moved around and hauled around the center, and the place looks beautiful. So thank you to everybody that pitched in.
Well, we love to see it. The community is proud of you and all that you do up there at Island Girl Power. If you'd like to get involved, you know, maybe send your girls up there, go to islandgirlpower.com. All the info is right there. Jayne, what would you like to add before we let you get back to work?
I'm very excited about Bill 7136, which I worked with the Guam Women's Chamber of Commerce, which I'm also a board member of. And this gives small women-owned businesses on Guam a 5% procurement advantage when they have government procurement contracts. And this, we feel, is really important because there's a lot of data out there that shows that women have been, and women-owned businesses have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic. And this is just a way to help women try to recover from the pandemic. And so the bill was put into third reading file on last week Friday. So we're very excited. I want to thank Amanda Shelton and all our bill sponsors and for introducing this and you know, helping women to just become more productive and take a greater part in the economic recovery of Guam. And it's well documented that when you invest in the women in a community, the entire community benefits. And so that's our role.
I love to hear it. So, oh yeah, Juanita, one more thing.
So our Corazon de Sangsong Center is partially open. So our community garden is open, the thrift store is open, and we're working on the nature park. So the girls clubhouse is not open yet. We still have quite a ways to go to prepare the facility, but I just want to get that out there. Corazon de Sangsong houses many of the service learning projects and community service projects. So for teenagers, we are definitely able to sign them in as volunteers and have them do some really worthwhile projects in the community. And if for those of you that don't know, Corazon de Sangsong, that means heart of the village. And so that's what we do with the community that surrounds us, but also outreaching into the whole island.
Well, you do quite a bit in our community, and we really appreciate it. Jayne, Juanita, I can't thank you both enough for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stay
All right,
safe,
thank
everybody.
you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. That's our show.